Hi everybody, this is Melissa Haveman.
And I'm Doug Haveman.
With Mesquite Field Farm, and today we're going to be talking about cover cropping. Before we get into the little field trip, I think this is so fun. Like, do you remember Mr. Rogers, how you used to go to the factory and you'd see how things were done? That's kind of what we're doing here today.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyway, so before we get into the actual videos and the process, we want to have a bit of a little chat about those things, about what is cover cropping and so on and so forth. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions so that you can give us some more information on that. So without any further ado, what exactly is cover cropping?
Well, cover cropping is a method of putting green manure nutrients back into the soil by planting a crop inside of your grasses and adding forbs into that, or a mixture of cool, warm season grasses, depending on when you're planting. So it allows you to grow a crop inside of your grasses, and when the grasses reach full maturity, peak nutrition, you would either roll crimp them, or in our case, we would graze them with livestock to kill that crop and provide carbon matter and cover to the ground, carbon matter back to the soil and nutrients back to the soil for the grasses that are already growing.
Okay, well, so that kind of leads into my next question, because it was, what are the benefits of cover cropping?
Yeah, so cover cropping allows you, rather than having to spray chemicals on it all the time, you can grow a crop that serves multiple purposes. So if you go out and watch the video Soil Carbon Cowboys, or look at anything done by Gabe Brown, Ray Archuleta, Ray retired from NRCS, those guys are really using cover crops to provide nutrients back to the soil, but they're also using it to feed their livestock. So it's a multi-purpose plant. You can add the nutrients back to your soil and at the same time graze your livestock across the top of them, so that you don't have to supplemental feed. Right? Also,
as I think, correct me if I'm wrong, as I understand it, it's also really good at helping with drought mitigation.
Oh, absolutely, and percolation, right? So in Texas, we have a huge problem with the sun hitting bare soil, right? Or cooking your grasses, things like that. So you can provide this crop when it's grazed by livestock or roll crimped. It provides cover for those bare spots so the soil temperatures don't rise up above 90 degrees, 85 degrees, and start killing the biota in the soil. So it really works well at providing that nutrition.
Right, and as I think, if I remember correctly too, as the material dies, it provides carbon. Actually, not just when it dies, I'm sorry, but as it breathes, and as it does what it does, it's a living thing, it increases your soil organic matter, which improves the water holding capability of your soil.
That's right.
So not only does it help in drought situations, help mitigate drought, it also helps in flood situations where your soil can absorb massive amounts of water very quickly into the soil.
Absolutely.
So here's my next question, and this may be slightly controversial, but we'll touch it a little bit.
We never done anything controversial ever.
Not us. So let's talk about with cover cropping. Do you never till when you're cover cropping, or do you only till when you're cover cropping? Let's talk about that a little bit, because
there's a lot of conversation about that, right? So in regenerative ag, we don't like to rip the soil. We want to leave the soil as intact as we can.
And why do we do that?
Well, it's friable at that point. So when you break the soil, you open up the biota to the sunlight first thing, so it can kill.
Yeah, it kills your microbiology.
The biome that's in the soil, but it also when you rip the ground like that, you're damaging the root structure of the grasses that currently exist. Right.
That's what I was wondering. Is I was like, why would you kill your grass to put some grass that's going to show up later? Why not just keep what you've got there and add this to it?
Right. So a lot of people are doing low disturbance. If they can't get their hands on a no-till drill, they're doing low disturbance. So they're using planters that have blades on them that don't cut as wide a channel and don't plow the ground. So what we really want to get our hands on is a no-till drill. And no-till drills cut a really small channel. The seed runs through cups. And those seed cups run through hoses that put the seed right into the trough that the blade cuts. And there's a wheel on the back called a coulter. And that coulter covers that that trough up so that the seed's not available for the birds to eat.
I was going to say, so let's
away.
talk about the other benefit of actually putting them into the ground as opposed to broadcasting them.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of ways to do that, right? You can, and we've trained people to do it as well.
Right.
If you're moving livestock or moving poultry through a field that you're grazing, you could move them out of the way into their new space, plant seed or broadcast seed on the surface of the soil, and then cover it with hay. And
I mean, it works.
Yeah,
it's very affordable. It's affordable. Well, it's affordable in that you're not spending $30,000 on a no-till drill.
That's right. But your seed soil contact isn't high, so your germination rates are lower. And
it's also not even, right? And so I think that could add up to a cost in terms of seed costs.
Sure.
Because you're not being as efficient with your application of your seed across your pastures.
Yeah, and don't forget birds. I mean, birds will. Well,
ideally, if you put it under the hay, they wouldn't. If you're just broadcasting out, absolutely. We've watched,
they'll get some in the hay.
Hundreds of field larks.
Yes, the field larks will fly into
feasting on our pasture.
Yes. So, yeah, you can reduce that by actually getting that seed in the soil and covering it. You get better germination rates. The animals aren't running away with it. You have a better chance of being more successful.
Right. So it's $30,000 or $30,000 in seed. I mean, I feel like really I would love to see more kind of co-opt no-till drills. I know that you can, I believe there's some NRCS offices in certain counties that have one. You can call and ask if they have one to use. Is that right?
Extension offices.
Extension office. Thank you.
The ag extension agencies may have them out in counties. I think there's one up by Fort Hood that the other training farm, the feet farm, Heidi and those guys get there. And we stumbled into this one in Divine, and we'll go into that more in the videos. Yeah,
so that's an option for you if you're looking for one. You don't have the money to purchase one. Check with your extension agency, see if they have one available. And if they don't, perhaps they know somebody who does. So let's talk a little bit about your field trip.
It was a good field trip.
And I'm sorry, I forgot the name of the gentleman's farm. Just tell me the name of the farm and just tell me a little bit about the trip itself.
So it was Lee Albe with Southwest Farms.
Okay.
And they're in Natalia, Texas.
Okay. Which is southwest of San Antonio, is it right?
It's south of San Antonio.
Okay.
Yeah. And his feed supplier is Fred Morales with Morales Feed and Supply. And we're going to put all their contact data in the
awesome
into the video description.
Okay.
Lee reached out to me. We did another interview for someone, and he saw that interview and called me and said, "Hey, we're doing very similar things. Let's get together and talk." So I called him, and he invited me out to his farm to look at his model. And we started this model, and we're not afraid to talk about the things that we have done.
We have screwed up. Let's be clear.
Yeah. So a lot of people that get into small farming, they immediately want that livestock. So as we learned through Holistic Management International and those traditions, you bring livestock, that impact to your soil is what causes your grasses to grow, right?
You're using them as a tool to improve your grasses.
You're using them as a tool, and you're putting them in a small paddock. They go through and they eat the grass. You move them every day, and they defecate and urinate on that, which fertilizes your soil and increases your soil carbon matter and your nutrient density and all of those things. But it takes a while, right? It's not fast. Lee's methodology is, I noticed it being different, so I asked the questions. When I got to his place, it was a postcard. I mean, there were
beautiful, bucolic pastures.
Absolutely, and it was not.
And let's be clear, in the middle of the extreme drought area of Texas right now.
Yeah, we're absolutely hammered. Haven't had water in months, and this guy's got knee-high grasses all over the place. He's got hay fields everywhere, but they're all cover cropped. They're mixed multi-species, not a monocrop, not a monocultured crop. It was amazing. So I was sitting in front of his house probably 15 minutes before he spotted me, and I was just looking at the farm. I was like, holy smoke, look at this place. It's amazing. It's a postcard.
Right.
And he spotted me and came out, and I pulled up the rest of the way in the driveway, and he introduced himself, and he started walking me around the farm. And he's got a garden that's amazing. I mean, he's got, at this time of the year, he's got tomato plants still growing, okra still growing, eggplant still growing. He's got stuff that should have been in its last days
a month
4 weeks ago.
Right.
And theirs are still coming on strong. Showed me his hay barns, and it's filled full of hay, right? I mean, it's cover crops, it's blends.
Let me guess. So you're immediately like, what am I doing
Yeah,
wrong?
I'm like, holy smoke, what is different in my model
Right.
than his model? And I got that, and it's his model, so to him it's normal, right? It's what he does every day, and it's what he understands. So I was really trying to understand what was different in how we do it versus how he does it, because we cover crop here too.
Right.
But his was more effective than mine was, and I was really trying to understand why.
Okay.
And he made a statement that stuck in my head. Lee grew up on a small farm in the valley, or on a farm in the valley that row cropped.
Okay.
So he was used to the equipment, used to those things, used to planting in seasons, and there are patterns that you develop of what grows, what follows what crop, and he understood those. But the statement he made to me was, I treat my grasses like row crops. And that really brought something on in my brain, because that means he's planting a cool season grass and a warm season grass. As cover crops, he's adding perennial grasses in there that would grow natively or could grow natively depending on your soil quality.
Right.
Into a mix of cover crops that are going to be roll crimped, or in his case, grazed, because not only does he do hay, he does livestock. So he does beef, sheep, goat, and poultry. So he's got all these revenue streams functioning, fully functioning, and he's got more forage he knows what to do with. And it looks like year round, because he's planting that cover to give him an immediate something to feed in the winter. Yeah. And at the same time, he's putting seed down that's going to grow in the spring. So he's getting things that are going to grow year round, and things that are only going to be seasonal right now that he can use for food.
Right. So this is a conversation that you and I have had frequently, numerous times, because I can't even count how many times you've said we need a no-till drill.
Yes.
And this is the distinction that I've made in my mind with this, is because with HMI, we know that the seed bank is there. Right. Obviously not with daikon radishes and turnips, but there is a native seed bank there in the ground, right? And with just grazing, rotational grazing, you can get those grasses up, and you can do that.
Oh yeah, we did it in 29 days.
Right.
Absolutely.
It just occurs to me that cover cropping does it faster. And it's kind of like an insurance policy for yourself. That being said, it's also quite expensive to do it with a no-till drill unless you can find somebody that has one that you can rent or whatnot. So I think
because they use $30,000 piece of equipment.
Right, and so I think it's a conversation that, you know, if you understand us and being with HMI, it's a testing question conversation, right?
Absolutely.
Where you have to sit down and say, okay, is this going to solve the root problem, and is it the best thing for us to use, and how do we get there, right? And it's time. Right, because you can do it with just rotational grazing and with animals, but it just takes a lot longer. Whereas if you're adding this step of cover cropping, it gives you a little more insurance.
Yeah, and I mean, from his perspective, as I understood it, he would much rather invest in his soil quality versus anything else, which I think is great. If everything in your model feeds off of those grasses and foods.
Right, absolutely. You're not supplemental. You're spending your money towards seed as opposed to supplemental feed,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
But and you know, you got to find that balance, right?
And a lot of people get started. They're trying to get that livestock out there. They're trying to get the animal impact on the soil, and if they don't have the experience with it, or even if they do have the experience with it, you have a bad weather cycle that you have no control over. Now you're stuck. Now your animals are doing more damage to your soil and to your grasses than if you didn't have any at all.
Right.
So his is absolutely an insurance policy, and it's an investment in next year.
Right. Well, because we've had this conversation. I know we did. We did a video previously where I talked about specifically that for me, HMI and rotational grazing it put me at ease, right? Because I knew that we could recover from weather events and stuff like that. And yet, here we are in the middle of the driest fall in 41 years.
Yes.
That's challenging unless you're this guy who's been doing this for years, but that's challenging to manage.
But he hasn't been doing this part for years. That's the crazy part.
Okay.
He just retired from a job of 20 years.
Okay.
And so he had an idea and he had a piece of property, but I don't think he implemented this more than 3 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. So he's done it, and I could be completely wrong, and he'll correct me if I'm wrong, but because it looked like it had been
It's taken centuries to get there.
20 years. It was amazing
Right.
to see it, and all of his infrastructure is portable, all of it.
Wow.
His livestock shelters, chicken tractors, all of his infrastructure is permanent. The only thing, is portable. The only thing that's permanent is his perimeter fencing.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, I'm kind of excited to get in here and see these videos. Is there anything else that you wanted to share about it that you want to make sure that everybody knew?
Let me pick up my notes here because we didn't talk a lot about, we talked about Lee, but we didn't talk a lot about Paul. And I'm sorry, not Paul, Fred Morales.
Okay.
So Fred from Morales Feed and Supply in Divine is an amazing guy. I've seen a lot of feed store people, owners, managers, employees. They're really not focused on what's coming 10 years from now. And Fred is very conscious of the soil health problem we have. Now he sells to everybody.
Really?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, but that's just a little shocking to me, considering most.
The first person I've ever found in a feed store, an owner of a feed store, that not only knew the regenerative model and the traditional model and has to sell to both,
right,
and values both of those customers.
Right.
It is a business and
yes,
you have to, and
yes.
I get that, but he understands the philosophy of regenerating our soil. We've lost so much of it in the United States due to droughts, weather conditions, catastrophes, and how we farm.
Right.
And he gets it.
Yeah.
So he also, Lee worked with Fred and 19 other farms to do a big purchase of seed, right? So any of us that are cover cropping, we go up online or we go to our feed stores or we go to our seed suppliers and we buy, 10 bags of seed and we pay a fortune for it, right? $90 a bag for organic seed, or $70 a bag, or $90 a bag for a mix that was developed by someone, right? Green cover seed is where the seed came from.
Is that greencoverseed.com?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay.
And Mr. Morales negotiated along with Lee with them on a bulk purchase. So they bought 40,000 pounds of seed. And because it was all coming to that feed store, they were able to negotiate for freight and all of those things and get the price down. So they got a 7-seed, it's a 5 or a 7-seed, it's a 7-seed mix, I think, for $35 a 50-pound bag.
Which is amazing. I do know I'm familiar with Green Cover Seed. I know some folks that work with them. And they, if I remember correctly, they have like a calculator online that you can go to figure out the best mix for you, for your area, that sort of thing. So it's a really good resource. And if you have any questions, just give them a call. They'll be more than happy to help. But it definitely is beneficial if you can find a group of people in your area that it can be shipped to one location. You can save on those shipping costs and save on the price of the seed.
Yeah, absolutely. And the more feed stores, the more people that are requesting this are actually opening up lines of business for those feed stores, right? So we can bring more revenue to the feed store, we can bring more revenue to the seed companies, and it reduces the cost of the farmer. So for all the battleground and breaking ground participants, I've given all this information out publicly here, and we'll post all that in the details, but for the battleground people that are in the program, they can all do their buys too from Mr. Morales, from Green Cover Seed, and we'll pick it up there. And because we all travel around to the classes, we can all shuttle.
Right, absolutely.
Seed.
It wouldn't be a problem for you to pick up, 10 extra bags and be like, hey, when you're coming out to do this, I'll have your seed for you here or whatnot. That's absolutely negotiable. And we can manage that.
Yeah, and they're more than willing to do that. They also use a product called ViaTrap that I had never heard of before. And it is, you can do it as a top cover, or you can do it as a fertilizer you put on the ground before seeding.
Okay, but what is it?
So it is actually an organic chicken manure mixed with carbon and ash. So it's it would be very similar to a product that is compost and biochar.
I was going to say it's compost and biochar together.
It's really close,
Okay.
and it's pelletized, right? So they're,
Interesting.
the pellets are 3 16-inch pellets, so they'll go out the back of a spreader. Well, Mr. Morales has a spreader.
Okay.
So if you buy Viatrack,
Do you have to use, do you have to use his spreader, or
No.
could you use one that you had?
no, you can use your own.
Okay.
But the people there, I mean, you're buying it from Mr. Morales anyway. So if you went and bought it from the parent company, you'd be getting it through a feed store anyway. So Mr.
Okay.
Morales is the supplier in Divine, and he supplies all the way up to Floresville, and they've got customers beyond Floresville, so
Okay.
way past us towards
Yorktown.
Houston and
Oh.
Austin.
Wow.
So they're constantly moving that stuff.
Right.
So they brought out, which you'll see in the videos, they brought out, I think, 3 tons in that truck to cover that 8 acres, and it took all of about 15 minutes to cover it. Doesn't matter if you put that down first and then plant over the top of it, or plant first and put that down as a top cover over it. Doesn't matter, it works.
I have some questions.
Its NPK is 333, so it's organic.
Okay.
But that carbon component to it and the ash
Absolutely.
component to it really help those plants kick off too, and it puts that carbon back in
Yeah.
the soil, which
Yeah.
builds the soil
The whole point of
structure
all
for
of
the
this we're
biota
doing.
to live in.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That's
So-
why we're doing this.
Exactly, exactly.
So if you can remember, so for a ton or 3 tons, 3.5 tons did 8 acres.
Correct.
Is that right? Idea how much what truckload cost?
I think the Vitrack, and he deployed it, so I think it was probably around $700.
For deploying and for the Vitrack?
Yes.
Okay, so you could get the Vitrack, just the Vitrack yourself and apply it yourself, maybe save some money.
Yeah, and Lee is sold on it, and based on his fields, I'm pretty sold
sold
on it,
too.
and I've never used it yet, but I'm about to.
So my other question was, so it's pelletized.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens though when is maybe a dumb question, but you spread it out, but you don't get any rain. It's just sitting there on top of your soil.
Right, so they actually have a crumble too. So the
Okay.
3/16 pellets are kind of like chicken feed pellets.
So that could be like a delayed fertilizer, really, like if you didn't
Right.
get rain or what, because eventually it's going to
It's gonna
break down.
Right, but if you don't want to do that, they actually have a crumble that you can spread with the same spreader. It just breaks it down into finer particles when it hits the soil, so it's easier to absorb. So a morning dew would help.
Right,
dissolve
or
in the
you can just
soil.
run a sprinkler out
Yeah.
there or something
Yeah.
and get it in. I kind of feel more comfortable with that,
Yeah, but
maybe. I don't know.
I don't care if I have to walk around with
Well,
a hand
I
and a
know.
water bucket at this point. If I can get that
No water.
nutrition
We're
in
gonna
the
have to do
soil.
something. Exactly right. That's exactly right. Oh my goodness. Okay, so anything else that you wanted to cover?
No, I think that's it.
Awesome, fantastic.
And we'll
love
take you right into the videos. Thank you for your time, and
Awesome.
enjoy the videos.
Okay, so I'm Fred Morales with Morales Feed and Supply out of Divine, Texas, and I just want to take the opportunity to explain to people that want to apply organic products to their soil, stimulants to get the soil working again, that it's easy to do now. We have the equipment to bring it to your location, apply it for you, or we can load the equipment, deliver the equipment to you, and you can apply it. There's almost any way that you would get a synthetic product, you can get an organic product now brought right to your farm, or you can come get it. And it's been made very easy to do now with the pelletizing process. So anybody who has an interest in going that direction and rebuilding their soil, it's easy to do it now.
Mr. Morales, what are we spreading today?
So this is Viatrack. This is a composted pelletized poultry litter. It's got about a 333 level of nutrient, but what it has more than anything else is the carbon and the ash, which are two things that really enhance soil development. It really enhances microbial activity. So this product is one of those that has what you would say a place for the food to be stored while the biology in the soil begins the consumption process and the breaking down process.
That's awesome. So we're going to send some people your way, and we're going to film you applying this so that they can see how application occurs. And thank you very much for your time today.
Very good. Thank you. Let me see where Lee would like to start.
Hello, I'm Lee Albe with Southwest Farms here in Medina County, Texas. And today we're interseeding a cool season crop into existing heavy stand of perennial Bermuda and KR blue stem and Johnson grass. So we're using a cool season blend through our Great Plains 1006 no-till drill. So I'll walk you around a little bit and show you how we use it. The first thing that we found in using this drill is the coulters are very, very effective at cutting through a heavy stand of perennial grasses like we have here. So you can adjust the coulters with this lever here, 1 through 4. 4 provides more down pressure. So in this pretty thick sod, we're running it on a 3, and that's really helped us to get that seed down in the ground and get it buried in the ground, where when you walk back over the sod, when you're done planting, you don't want to see any seed, or the less seed you see laying on top of the ground, the better. So if I can take 10 steps and find 1 seed, I'm happy. I've done it in times before I knew how to calibrate this, and certainly before we had this kind of machine. I've done it to where you walk across the ground and half of the seed you've planted is laying on top of the ground. Some of it will germinate, you know, you get some water on it, some of it will germinate, which is still a good thing, but you definitely want it in the ground where it wants to be. Another thing with the mixed seeds that we're using, so today we're using a cereal rye, ryegrass, common vetch, orchard grass, oat blend. So you know, it's with any mixed seed, you have a lot of different sizes of seed. So the calibration of the seed cups is important and difficult. So right now we're putting out about 70 pounds of that mix per acre. Cereal rye, ryegrass, oats, vetch, with the oats really being kind of the biggest seed, the vetch being the second biggest. And then of course the ryegrasses are all smaller, and same with the cereal rye. So we're running it at 60 right now, and we're actually probably putting out 80 pounds to the acre, which is a little too much. I would probably put that meter at 50, which is right in the middle. It starts at 0. 0 is fully shut, 100's all the way open. So we're running that at 60 and putting out about 80 pounds of that mix, which is a rather small seeds. All of them will show you kind of what that seed size looks like. And if you're running more oats and more peas or something like that, you could probably get that down to about 40 or 50 and put out 50 or 60 pounds an acre. But it's definitely it's always a work in progress with the calibration. So the best luck we've had is this seeder puts out a 10-foot wide swath. So if you know how long your pastures are, you can do some pretty quick math and figure out how long it takes for this seeder to run over 1 acre of ground. What I've done a lot is set my meter at whatever I think it should be, let's say 50 right in the middle, and put in 50 pounds of seed in this machine, 1 bag of seed in it, and then run over your acre and see how far that 50-pound bag went. And then you can do a little more math after that to figure out if you need to go up or down on what your target rate for planting is. The coolest thing about these no-till drills is their weight and the down pressure of these coulters here. So this is a real critical part of the machine, is to cut through that sod or to get that seed in the ground without having to till it. These wear down in time. They wear down a lot because they're getting a lot of use. So in no-till drills, used ones, that's the first thing that goes bad, and the first thing you want to kind of keep an eye on, because as they wear down in size, they're providing less down pressure into the sod. So the more acres of no-till drills run over, the less effective it's becoming if these coulters have been worn down and if they haven't been replaced. And it is a pretty easy replacement. It's just something else you've got to budget for.
Something else you have to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Any lube points on this one that we have to worry about?
A cool thing about these is all of the lube points are in this one manifold right here. So there's one manifold on each side. So you just keep these lubed up, and you don't have to run around all over the place.
That's amazing.
Yeah, looking for lube points.
I can't tell you the number of times I had to go look for Zerks fittings on equipment.
This has been really cool. The only downside to this sort of configuration is you've got a lot of these tubes running all over the machine. And so, of course, just with all of your kind of preventative maintenance, you want to look around and make sure you're not losing any grease through any of these tubes anywhere, or have pulled any of them loose,
Sure.
you know, with anything. But yes, the actual lubing of it is real easy.
Any problems with the seed cups on the back or the hoses on the back?
The keeping the machine under cover is very critical. So yes, if you leave this machine outside where it gets rained on, you will get water in here, and it's difficult to get all of the seed out of here. And if you sprout seed in these seed cups, it's very, very difficult to get out. So short of getting every single seed out of the seed cup, which I think would be pretty difficult, just keeping it dry to where that seed can't germinate. That's a real critical part.
No problems. The hosing is dry.
I have not seen the hoses dry out or crack because we're really pretty good at keeping it under cover all the time, you know. When you're running the machine, I frequently, every 3 or 4 acres, which this machine at about 4 miles an hour does about 3 acres an hour. You probably go faster than that, you know, but that's just a real safe, easy speed. And the faster you go, the more you will throw seed around because your closers are jumping around. So yeah, about 4 miles an hour, 5 miles an hour. You want to see seed pouring out of here. So like if you can get someone else to drive, that's great while you walk behind it. Or if you just come back and check it every once in a while. You want to these tubes will get plugged up if you've got some trash in there. This is real fine seed that we've been planting for the last few days. So this flows through the tubes real easy. Real heavier seed like winter peas and oats, like we talked about, they'll get plugged up sometimes, and it just overflows the seed cup. So then your seed is still coming out of the machine, but it's just being scattered all over.
Yeah, it's scattered on the ground.
And I often, what I do is when I'm making my passes around, you know, you're always looking at where you just went, right, so that you can kind of keep an eye. That's the first way you can tell is if you got a problem is by looking over there where you just went that last pass and seeing some problem like that, like seed scattering around, or too much of it laying on top of the little cuts that the coulters make. So it has a small seed box as well. This is for super small seeds like clovers and alfalfa and things. It's great at clover seed. These tubes will plug up more often. I've planted a lot of clover. In the immortal words of Dale Strickler, I paid my dues to the clover gods. I planted a lot of clover with this, and I have the most luck with it where it's very, very fertile, and it seems like we're never fertile enough on our soil. So I haven't had as much luck with clover in South Central Texas as I've wanted to. So I don't use the clover box much more because I've spent enough money on clover seed. But as the fertility comes up in these soils, and we found things like the Viatrack to improve the fertility a lot, I am seeing more luck with the clover, and we'll get more into that, and interseeding some alfalfa as well. We're doing that this year on some small blocks where we finally got the soil where we want it.
Anything else on this one we got to worry about?
That's about it. It's a real easy machine to use, and the greatest thing about it is you know, it's just a one pass. So this field is actually a little grassy for me. You know, it's a little high. We mowed this 3 weeks ago, and in order to no-till it after this, and right as soon as we mowed it, we had alternator problems with the tractor, and so we couldn't get the no-till in here quick enough. So it sat for a couple weeks and got grassy again. So I'm gonna go ahead and seed it, and then come back in with the mower and mow this again, and lay that grass mulch down on top of the seed, and then we'll water most of it, Yeah, and let that mat grass kind of serve as a mulch for the cool season seeds that we're doing.
Anything else you want to tell the viewers before we wrap up for the day?
Y'all happy farming and get into it and get with it. And there's nothing like just trying it. So what's going to work for you is what you try and what you learn what doesn't work. So just do it. That's what I say when it comes to farming, is just get into it and you'll learn all you need to learn out here in a field somewhere under the sunshine. So it's been real fun for us.
Thank you very much for your time today and allow us to come out, and we'll get this video up and shoot you a link so you can see yourself.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
I can explain later, on film, but this is how you engage the ears to make it distribute the seed.
Gotcha.
Affects the down pressure of the coulters. This is what really makes the unit effective in sod farming like this. Is the down pressure on that coulter to cut through your sod and get that opener into the ground, and then the closer wheel to seal it up. But that's the great part of this machine, is it adds hydraulic pressure to your coulter.
To the coulter.
Opener.
Gotcha.
So Mathew Demmer with Crown D Ranch here. We're giving our first test run to our bale unroller. We've kind of got set up where we're going to start at. So we're cutting off all the string. Got to pull the string off. After we get the string off, we'll lower the bale down. And we have a road feeder on the front of our UTV here that we're going to use to spread seed out before we actually roll the hay over the top of it. So. Right here we got our winch. We're going to flip our lever, start slowly rolling out your cable, give yourself enough slack. And push. As easy as it is. Not too hard, but just a little bit of a push, it gets over the top, and then we'll slowly let it down. All of our bale is now on the ground. We're going to give it a little bit extra slack, so as it rolls down, it'll actually be able to sit on the ground and keep rolling. Here up front we've got our feeder. We'll go ahead and get it filled up. We'll get started. This is a mix of oats, winter wheat, winter peas, and clover. Alright, we'll get in the gator and we'll give it a shot.